It's the morning after New Zealand's emphatic win over Ireland in what was one of the best test matches of recent times, with both teams really playing their hearts out and especially at the end completely emptying the tank. So look, it was a brilliant test match, and in today's video I'm going to be going through my player ratings. So as always, let me know if you agree or disagree with my scores and why, as well as telling me who you think was the man of the match, and I'll be sure to get back to your comments. I'll start off with the All Blacks firstly, who performed so well yesterday, and look, you can really tell they attacked the game. They knew that they were going to be up against it. They knew the Irish were the favourites, and they really did perform like a team really possessed with sort of huge amounts of emotional energy, and yeah, they were very up for it. So I'm going to start off in the front row. I'm going to go De Groot a 9, Taylor an 8, and Lomax a 9. Now, not many going into this game, me included, thought the All Blacks could really do what they did to the Irish scrum. Andrew Porter was giving away many penalties through the pressure of the starting All Blacks props in De Groot and Lomax, as well as the props that came off of the bench as well. So look, the All Blacks coaching staff will be very happy with their set piece. It's going to be crucial going through the rest of the tournament, and it really did turn up in this game. Taylor gets an 8 from me. I thought he was very good yesterday. The only reason it does drop down was because of the yellow card from collapsing the rolling maul. Look, some would say it's completely unavoidable because the maul was going to, if he didn't pull it down, it was going to go over for a try anyway. So look, it's debatable, and it's almost a team infringement because someone was going to pull it down, and ultimately it was him. But yeah, his score has to drop down slightly just because he got yellow carded. Moving into the second rows, Retallick from me gets an 8.5, and Scott Barrett for me gets a 9. The second rows for the All Blacks were just phenomenal once again. Look, the Irish line-out was really impacted by some brilliant pressure from Retallick and Scott Barrett. They got up in the air and competed hard. Sometimes it did work, well, most of the times it did work. There was one point in which Retallick went up with the All Blacks on their own 5 metre line. Unfortunately, didn't nick it, and the Irish went over for a rolling maul. But for looking at the game holistically, they did very well at line-out time. On their own ball, they were able to provide Aaron Smith with some absolutely perfect setup plays, which ultimately resulted in the Richie Mo'unga line break and then the Will Jordan try. So look, you have to trace all of that brilliant play back to the start, and what it was a crisp line-out ball that enabled that platform. Moving into the back row, I'm going to give Shannon Frizzell a 9, Sam Cane a 9.5, and Ardie Savea a 9.5. Shannon Frizzell was very powerful and industrious in his carries and really brought sort of a spiteful edge to the All Blacks forward pack. He really did carry with a lot of intent and helped the All Blacks get over the gain line. Sam Cane, I was just amazed with how brilliant his performance was. From the opening, 5 minutes, he put in a thunderous tackle, and you could really feel the All Blacks sort of gathered around the energy and the passion in which he was putting into the tackles, and they ran with it. So Sam Cane was phenomenal, brilliant over the ball as well. He really did disrupt the All Blacks, the Irish breakdown quite well. Lots of hands on the ball, sometimes got a turnover, but sometimes just slowed the ball down and gave the All Blacks defence enough time to line up. And then Ardie Savea, unreal, absolutely unreal once again. Look, he got over the ball so many times. He looked knackered and out on his feet at the end of the game because within the 40 phases that the Irish went through at the end of the game, he just got to so many rucks, tried to get the turnover. Unfortunately, he didn't, but Sam Whitelock did in the end. But look, the energy Ardie Savea put into this game, how powerful his carrying was, and everything in between, especially his breakdown work, was simply phenomenal. Moving into the back line, I'm going to give Aaron Smith an 8 and Richie Mo'unga a 9.5. Aaron Smith, for me, played a really good game. Once again, the same as Cody Taylor. I've got to drop his score down to an 8 because of the yellow card in which he committed, in which stopped what Wayne Barnes described as a probable line break. So he got a yellow card. I can't remember quite at what point in the game that came, but it was a real opportunity for the Irish to get back into the game. Obviously, Irish were trailing early on, so yeah, New Zealand could have done without the yellow card from Aaron Smith, because shortly after, Jamison Gibson Park goes through the exact gap that Aaron Smith would have been in. So look, sometimes you make these decisions in the heat of the moment, and it happens so fast. So look, Aaron Smith didn't do anything sort of intentionally wrong. He just got caught in two minds, and look, before you know it, you're sat on the stall for 10 minutes. But look, a solid game from Aaron Smith. I've always said he is the best passer of a rugby ball in world rugby. Absolutely phenomenal. Richie Mo'unga, 9.5. I thought he was unreal. When the All Blacks went through sort of 40 phases, or what was it, something in the mid to high 30s early on in the match before getting a penalty advantage, I thought the ability for him to organise that attack, although it wasn't going sort of making huge meters, sort of when it got to 20 phases plus, the ability to reorganise that attack and get your hands on the ball so many times and play the correct structure showed some real high quality skills. And then ultimately the break for the Will Jordan try, unreal. What fly half do you see really making a break and running 35 metres off of a line out and then passing it to the winger? You don't see it often, and look, his pace as a fly half and his attacking abilities is really a point of difference. Once again, if you compare him to Sexton, as well as Sexton does on so many things, phenomenal player, Sexton doesn't have the ability to really go through a gap and accelerate away the same way Richie Mo'unga can. So look, brilliant from him. And then moving into the centres, for me, Jordie Barrett 9.5 and Rieko Ioane 9. Unreal from Jordie Barrett. I saw the battle of the game really being between Jordie Barrett and Bundy Aki. Both players really turned up, but Jordie Barrett, the ability to hold Kelleher over the line, I just couldn't believe it. Absolutely unreal play from Jordie Barrett. And ultimately, I don't like to say this because there was a good 5-6 minutes left in the game, but that won them the match, in my opinion. That was the moment in which the Irish heads dropped. They just got a brilliant rolling ball going, and then the brilliance from the All Blacks and Jordie Barrett held them up over the line. Caelan Doris drops the restart, and then there you go. The pressure was relieved for the All Blacks. So brilliant from Jordie Barrett, constantly going over the gain line, and then it was ultimately his supersonic right boot that kept the Irish at arm's length later on in the game. Rieko Ioane, very powerful, good acceleration into the carries. I thought he did well. Secured quite a lot of meters as well, which was important to keep the All Blacks attack, especially when it got a bit stagnant. He then initiated some front football and got them back on the front foot. And then in terms of the back three, I'm going to give Fainga'anuku a 9, Will Jordan a 9.5, and then Bodie Barrett a 9. Let's start off with Fainga'anuku, coming from Mark Talea, very powerful, very strong in the carries, and then scored the opening try for the All Blacks. Great bit of interchange with Rieko Ioane down the short side on the left hand side of the pitch and got the ball back. Very powerful winger. He was definitely proved a point of his power proved the point of difference against a winger like Matt Hansen, who's not quite as physical. James Lowe, look, he's a big tackler, but Fainga'anuku showed that he's a very powerful player, and he's got quite a lot of intelligence as well. He definitely knew how to link up down that short side. Will Jordan 9.5. He's just a phenomenal rugby player. His ability to read a game, see gaps is incredible, and ultimately his pace is second to none. Obviously scoring the try in the corner from the assist from Richie Mo'unga. He executed that try very nicely. Great bit of follow play. And ultimately it was his line that meant Richie Mo'unga could go through the gap, because if he wasn't on the inside, then the dummy wouldn't have been on and Richie Mo'unga wouldn't have been able to make the line break. Beauden Barrett, was very impressed with him. His ability to find the backfield space via a little chip and regather was just unreal. I think he's finding some of the best form of his life, which is potentially saying something, because he had one of the best primes we've ever seen from an international rugby player in 2016 and 17. But maybe he's not quite at those heights, but he's definitely finding some really solid form. Moving into the Irish team, now this really pains me to do, but I'm going to have to do it. Porter 6.5. That just feels horrible to write. Maybe I should give him a 7. His ability to keep going in games and his endurance and how much he gives to the Irish team is just absolutely unreal, and he deserves a real high score because of that. But I have to say, getting pinged sort of how many times it was, 3-4 times at the scrum, ultimately drops his score down, because that was the main point of difference from the All Blacks, probably barring the breakdown that really turned the match in their favour. Maybe I should give Porter a 7, but look, ultimately I really like him as a rugby player. I think he's a phenomenal and has been unreal for Ireland this tournament. But when you're getting pinged so many times at scrum time, whether he was in the right or whether he was right when he disagreed with the referee, we'll never know. But ultimately the paper says that he got penalised quite a lot, and look, that's the decision we have to live by. 7 for Dan Sheehan. She'll go to a 7.5, and then Furlong at a 7. Look, Furlong didn't get penalised as much as Porter at scrum time. I thought Furlong was good around the field, but ultimately they were definitely overshadowed by the All Blacks props. Look, the Irish front three got through a lot of work, but I'd say they weren't quite as clinical. Some of the clear outs were just not quite timed as well as the Irish are used to. So that ultimately results in a slightly lesser score. Dan Sheehan was good, ultimately struggled when it came to the line out. Look, it's difficult. He's a brilliant player around the field. He gets through so much work. He's a very powerful ball carrier. But ultimately, when you're missing your line out darts on a couple of occasions in really good attacking position, when Johnny's put his faith in you to not go to the 3 points and go to touch, and it doesn't yield any points, then it's very disappointing. Look, moving into the second rows, obviously thinking about the fact that the line-out was struggling, I can't give much more than a 7 for these two. They both put in an absolute shift. Byrne and Henderson were out on their feet at the end of the game. Well, to be fair, most players were, but they gave their all. So I have to give them a huge amount of credit for that. They really played their hearts out. Some brilliant bits of attacking structure with Byrne making a couple half breaks. But ultimately, when your line-out's not clicking, it's very difficult to reward them. Moving into the back row, I've gone 7 for Omani, 7.5 for Josh van der Fleer, and for Caelan Doris, I gave him 7.5. Look, Omani, he went missing for a couple parts of the game. He just wasn't involved as much as usual, but defensively, he was very impressive. Made, I think, 15 tackles in the game, which was quite a lot. But I just didn't see enough of him potentially on the ball. Omani's one of the best rugby players over the Jackal, so potentially disappointing he didn't get a few more turnovers. Josh van der Fleer, 7.5. He did well. Look, he tries very hard, especially in attack, to use his sort of limited body weight, and really does throw himself around very well. Ultimately, the breakdown was the area in which the Irish weren't clinical enough, and I think your back row has to take a lot of the problems there. I mean, look, the back row's main job is the breakdown, amongst many other roles, but yeah, the Irish came second best at that point. Doris, 7.5, workhorse, absolute workhorse, but ultimately when it counted, he wasn't quite as clinical as he usually was. He wasn't making the meters off of carries and the gain line advantages that he usually did, and then ultimately he dropped the important ball from the goal line dropout in the 75th minute, and just a couple errors that you wouldn't expect from Doris that ultimately didn't help New Zealand's cause. Moving into the back line, now the Irish back line I thought did very well, so there'll be slightly elevated scores amongst these players. Jameson Gibson-Park, I'm giving an 8. I thought he put in a solid performance. I really did. Look, a couple passes that were intercepted, which were a little bit unusual from Gibson-Park, but I felt there was a drop off in the intensity and speed of ball when Conor Murray came on. So I'd give Murray sort of maybe a 5. Maybe no, that's probably a bit harsh. Maybe a 5 or 6. I just didn't think the point in the game that Irish need to speed the ball up. I just didn't feel that happened. And look, I thought Gibson-Park was decent. Obviously, he played an instrumental role in some of the tries that Ireland scored early on. Obviously, got a try himself. So look, he deserves his score from me. Johnny Sexton, I'm between a 7.5 and an 8, but I'm going to give Johnny Sexton an 8. I thought in what was his last game of international rugby and rugby at the professional level as a whole, I thought he played very well. Look, he obviously doesn't have the gift of the pace and etc. of Rishi Mo'unga, but he deserves a lot of plaudits, because some of the tries Johnny Sexton put in sort of 5-10 passes per the phase of the phases leading up to the try. So everything through the attack went through him. And look, he missed a key goal at the sort of in the 70-something minute, which would have put Ireland within a point of New Zealand and potentially could have gone for the drop goal at the end. But this is all if, buts and maybes. But I thought he put in a decent performance, but was definitely overshadowed by Richie Mo'unga. And then in terms of the centres, I thought the Irish centres did very, very well. I'm going to give Bundy Aki an 8.5, and I'm going to give Ringrose an 8. Look, although they lost the game, I don't think you can really argue with that. I thought Aki, obviously with his try, was very, very good. He really gave his all, very powerful in the carries, and was a handful for the All Blacks defence. And then Ringrose, look, he played his role in his structure very, very well. Made plenty of carries, and was really testing for the All Blacks defence. Ultimately, the All Blacks defence came out on top, but that's not necessarily down to the fault of Ringrose. It's more down to the expertise and incredible play from the All Blacks. Now moving into the wings, I thought James Lowe, 6.5. I thought he was a little bit disappointing, and then a 7 for Hansen and a 7.5 for Keenan. Look, I thought James Lowe, I didn't think he got involved or played near as well as he can do. He put in a big hit early on, some good physical defence, but outside of that, I thought he did struggle a little bit. And then Matt Hansen, he went off with a calf injury, which was disappointing. Some sort of moments of real promise from Matt Hansen. I thought he was good in some areas, but ultimately he doesn't quite have the pace of the likes of Will Jordan, which maybe he could have done with at points in this game. Look, there was a turnover ball in which the Irish really had a solid overlap and an opportunity to use their pace in the outside channels, but unfortunately James Lowe, in comparison to the likes of Jordan and Beauden Barrett, doesn't quite have the pace to really execute upon. A fullback, Hugo Keenan, 7.5, solid as always. I thought he struggled a little bit in terms of breaking the tackles in which he probably used to. He didn't make quite as many metres through contact, but look, the All Blacks defence was fired up as you like, so that's not necessarily surprising, but solid from Keenan. He provided a good base at the back, but ultimately was overshadowed by the brilliance of Beauden Barrett. So look, those are my scores. Just a couple noticeable mentions for the All Blacks. I thought Sam Whitelock coming off the bench, obviously securing the turnover at the end, but even more than that, he was just phenomenal around the field. I thought he added a good impact when he came on. One of the most experienced players of all time, and that was the experience which the All Blacks really needed. The old, knowledgeable head on the field, which controlled the game solid at the end and stopped the Irish from crossing the whitewash. In terms of the man of each team, I'm going to give the man of the All Blacks to Geordie Barrett, and I'm going to give the best player on the field for Ireland, I thought, was Bundy Aki. And ultimately the man of the match goes to this man, Geordie Barrett. Phenomenal performance from him, absolutely unreal. Won the key moment in the match with held up Rowan Kelleher over the All Blacks goal line, and then kicked some worldy penalties, and I think it was a conversion as well to put them in the lead, and got out of the 3-point margin in which the Irish could have drew or won the game. So look, very impressive game. I was very impressed with both sides. Real thrilling watch. Let me know what your thoughts are on my scores in the comment section down below. I'll get back to all of you as always, and thank you very much for watching.